Abusuya Ken Agyapong Japan say the Odiabeshim say he will never accept defeat in 2028 unless Electoral Commission ababontin neno ene nchiremu kakra todwa wo ho a abusuya mepese beko ne akwakuti enyoma eboboba efri ne nsem o de betudwa fa Dr. Bawumia ne early concession a o make ya ema MPP for lusu seat bebre or parliament
the mesra munya kukuduro for until say you be kind the last constituency. Say me a presidential candidate, I will never accept defeat. I will never accept defeat until the Electoral Commission comes out to declare. I will not make case yourself I will never accept defeat. Ekuna ye kono ehia bema a wo mu beta yachi. And yes, I would your boy, Namu Dimirika, no more Ghana, no Marcos Seven. No. And yes, I'm your election in Africa. To vote for a bold man.
But I don't get it. What's the motive behind this statement made by Honorable Ken Agyapong?
So I think he's making it clear that going into 2028 election is not going to be an easy election. 2028 election is actually an election we are taking away from the NDC. When I say we are taking away from the NDC, I'm saying so because looking at our history, at every point in time, parties have been given 8 years. NDC had their first 8 years with Rawlings. Kofi continued. Mills Mahama, yes, 4-4, but it was still an 8-year period for the party. Akufo-Addo had another 4 years. So if MPP really wants to win power in 2028, we need a leader who will stand firm, a leader who will be strong enough to ensure that the right thing is done, and a leader who will not be a pushover.
That he wouldn't have conceded until the last ballot was counted in the 2024 elections. He's seeking to lead the New Patriotic Party. What it means is that he wasn't too comfortable and happy with the 2024 flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Bawumia, for conceding that early. What might have necessitated these statements from the Honorable Ken Agyapong?
All right, thank you very much to you and your listeners. We in 2024, let me start from 92.
Right.
The year 1992, I think during the election, the presidential election was a week ahead of parliamentary, and after MPP lost the presidential, he decided not to even contest the parliamentary at all. For good reason. From 96 onward, both elections were held on the same day.
Fair.
And I think one of the good things about such is that mostly, if you realize, a lot of the times when we are voting for voting by-elections, parliamentary by-elections, the voter turnout is low because the mostly presidential election, the enthusiasm about presidential election, and the fact that people even know what the impact of presidential elections are, actually drive voters to polling stations during these elections, and they end up voting parliamentary too. And that's one of the reasons why, in my opinion, even doing by-elections, people don't even end up voting at all. So there's a very strong relation between parliamentary elections and presidential elections. In the last election, I was one of the lawyers for the New Patriotic Party who were stationed. We had lawyers stationed in all constituencies. I was in Swami constituency working. We finished polls the regular time 5. We did the counting. We started collation. In fact, we started collation around 1 a.m. So around 9-10 a.m. we heard that Dr. Bawumia wanted to address the nation. Then we just realized that he had conceded defeat. At that point in time, from the experience in my own polling station, a lot of the MPP people who were there, observers, all left. That was even before we could finish presidential collation to continue with parliamentary collation. During the period of parliamentary
collation. At the time Dr. Bawumia conceded a defeat, it was clear that the MPP had lost the election. It was so clear across the country. I mean, at the time, the media had projected the NDC winning the election. At the time, it was.
No.
You see,
The media had
collations were done, you know, at various police stations, and it was so clear that the NDC had won. The NDC's, you know, tabulations and everything clearly at the time showed that the NDC had won the election. If you look at the number of seats that the NDC won at the time, it was so clear that there wasn't any way that the NDC could have won the election.
I getting it wrong. As of that time, even most coalition centers had not started parliamentary coalition. Honorable is here, he's a member of parliament. I mean, Honorable, I don't know if you remember, as of 10 a.m. on the Sunday, had you started your coalition, parliamentary seats coalition in your constituency? No, I mean, you were a candidate, and I was an agent. Right, so I was there on the election day for Swami constituency. We're not even down with presidential, and to me, I was on a platform with other people, and most places had not started their presidential parliamentary coalition. What's the challenge is, you know, a lot of people had hope. You know, like that's one thing with elections. Until the final declaration is made, sometimes even when it's released, there are a lot of people who had hope that their party was going to win. Till that final declaration came. And in fact, the night before, there had been a high-powered delegation leading a press conference led by Dennis Miracles Weija, my big sister Fati, and our director of communication of the party, Richard Ahyagba, led and assured us that we were going to win the election. Everything was on track. So, moving forward, Dr. Bawumia came to declare. Once Dr. Bawumia declared, security broke down nationwide, and from experience, and as I said, we was in contact with other people who were agents like me. Security broke down nationwide, especially at the coalition centers. And what started happening was that NDC people were emboldened, and you know, like there's a struggle for power. So people were actually emboldened, entered into coalition centers. There are a lot of polling stations where people went there, collected all the pink sheets, all the evidence of the polling, and took them away. And so they collected all the evidence of the polling and took them away. People went there. In fact, there are videos of Sam George, who was a member of parliament. He had finished his election, went to a different coalition center. In fact, at that coalition center, and you could see the people. They forcefully or coerced the agents, the returning officer. The returning officer to declare for their candidates. These were the challenges that the early declaration brought, and by virtue of that, MPP ended up as of then with only 88 seats. And I can tell you, there are a couple of seats that, for instance, a seat like our win, but for the early declaration, the MPP could have fought till the end. A seat like Ablekuma North, but for the early declaration, MPP could have fought to the end. A seat like Dobi Kwabenya, but for the early declaration, MPP could have fought to the end. In fact, there were 7 other MPP seats that on that day, by virtue of the fact that security had broken down,
fought to the end, but would you have won those seats?
Yes, and let me tell you why. In fact, there were a couple of other seats, 7 of them. I'm going to mention all of them to you. I was part of the team that was in court. There were 7 other MPP seats where same or something similar was done, but they were able to preserve some of the evidence. In Sawema Dioji was part. Tema Central, my own boss, Charles Forces constituency was part. Okaikwe Central, that is Young Patrick Agyapong constituency was part. I have no Southwest or Southeast, I'm not too sure. I have all the data here. In these constituencies, similar issues happened. They were lucky that they were able to preserve the evidence. In fact, even with them, the EC had illegally declared the NDC parliamentary candidates as the winner of the elections. They had to go to High Court. In fact, it went all the way to the Supreme Court for Shorara and came back. We spent both our Christmas Day, our New Year's Day, fought to the end till finally we were able to rescue these 7. So the fact that early declaration was made, emboldening certain people were threatening the police officers that we will transfer you are going to pay for this, and they have seen the power transfer right before their eyes.
So you think that before Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia conceded, it wasn't clear across the nation that the NDC had won the election.
No, I don't think it was clear. So for
what
those of
was your
us,
conviction? At the time you considered,
So
the
those-
NPP was still thinking that they were going to win the
because you
election.
see, I was at a polling station. I could see the number of people who were there, enthusiastic, making sure that we should protect our ballot, making sure we should win, and we're doing the coalition center. There were so many people outside. Right after the declaration, everybody started leaving. Everybody forgot about parliamentary. And you see, for parties, once you win presidential, you want more. Mostly the big ticket item is the presidential. But once you win presidential, then there will be that enthusiasm. Let's get parliament. But for those of us, and this election, they did something different. Mostly at the coalition centers for previous elections, they actually do collation of parliamentary before presidential. This time around it was different. So we did collation of presidential before parliamentary. So once, like, a lot of people realized that, oh, we had lost the ultimate, and what is the essence of saving the seats, they all started working out. But those in government knew that they need numbers in parliament. So those in government, and that's how come an MP like Sam George could move from his constituency to another constituency to fight for seats. And there are videos all over. And I was in court on these days. For 7 of them, we were able to fight to reverse them. But even for these seats, there had been declarations made in favor of the candidates there.
So, and even if Dr. Bawumia had waited till the last ballot was counted in the last constituency before he conceded a defeat, it wouldn't have changed the verdict.
Yes, Dr. Bawumia would have lost, obviously. Yes, we wouldn't have won parliament, but NDC wouldn't have had the 2/3 it has. I'm very convinced about that.
You're convinced about
yes.
that?
I don't think
So
NDC
in other words,
would
you're
have-
saying that the decision by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to concede early
was a wrong one. And
was a wrong one and has affected the party in the 2024
and the
election.
truth is, someone like the Weija MP, he's actually a leader in parliament. He has been very neutral throughout the process. I don't know who he supports in his heart, and he has said it's clear. Okuboy, Dr. Okuboy, is a Dr. Bawumia supporter, and he has made it. In fact, someone just sent me a video of Dennis Miracles
Right.
saying that decision actually cost us seats. In his defense, he thinks that Dr. Bawumia did it for the peace of the nation. But that is the comment. But he even believes, and this is his spokesperson, he believes that Dr. Bawumia did it for the peace of the nation. But he also concedes that decision cost us some seats. Now, the challenge here is that I actually think that, to be very honest, that election, apart from the isolated event where military men beats, I think one NDC executive somewhere, Obuase, had a scuffle with a military man.
Right.
Apart from that particular isolated situation, the election was generally peaceful. Till the declaration was made, and there was a lot of chaos in some coalition centers. Just a minute.
Right. Okay.
So, and I've seen a lot of comments being made that this couldn't have been true because if the MPs were serious, they would have had their own coalition processes. Anyone who said this does not really understand what went on the election day. You know why? The MPs scanned these ballot papers, these pink sheets. They did their own collation and they were winning. Example, Okwaike Central. He scanned everything, did his own collation, and he was winning. He hits the collation center. Tax are brought in. They come scatter the whole place, destroy ballot papers, and take them away. Then EC tells you they're not going to take duplicates or scan ballots, scan pink sheets because they are not original. These were the actual things that happened on the ground. So the fact that you have scanned and everything, and the EC says, I want your original copy. The original copy is the only one that was accepted during the collation process. And during the collation process, tags were brought in, and these tags took the original copies from them. So you don't even have evidence that you won. These were the practical challenges that we faced.
Okay.
I think that Honorable has been very clear that we need a bold leader for the MPP.
You think that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is not bold?
What I can say is about Honorable Kennedy.
Okay.
But for Honorable Kennedy, obviously he's bold.
Okay.
Obviously he's bold.
Compared to the other people who are contesting.
Honorable Kennedy is bold. Honorable Kennedy is bold. And I think that he's right to criticize the fact that the early declaration didn't help the party. And I mean, people who even support other candidates, including the Honorable Hoboy, who supports the former vice presidents. There are videos of him also saying so. In fact, his own spokesperson, it was very clear that the whole declaration actually affected the party and affected the party in parliament. He thinks that it was done to keep the country as one. However, I even think that's where my point of difference with him is. I think that actually brought more violence, because that was what emboldened people to barge into polling stations, collation centers, to cause mayhem. So I think that's what I want to say for now.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm so grateful for your time. Around 2 minutes.
I think want to also say thank you. And on a very lighter note, I've just looked at the balloting of the 5 candidates, and I've made a joke. I said it's like the Agyapons are opening and closing the bracket. Agyapong number 1. And then Agyapong number 5. So they are closing the others. I don't know whether there will be any specification to that. But trust me, I think that. So I've just been looking down. Agyapons are opening and closing the bracket. Let's see what happens.